We are now live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 regular virtual school board meeting of the Hendry County School Board. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I would like to ask Reverend Brown to please lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Eternal God, we're so thankful for this time we can come, oh God, and discuss the business of Hendry County. We ask now you bless all of our efforts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Board Member Nelson, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good.
All right, thank you. Now, Superintendent, do we have any citizen comment on agenda items?
Yes, we do. To whom it may concern, good morning. I would like the school board to directly address the decision made to not have sports band camps this summer. As a parent, I know that my student needs this time to prepare for the fall season. According to Governor DeSantis, our summer program should be happening. Please consider the physical and emotional needs of the students during this time. Thank you, Lori Richards. And if I could address this just for a moment, just for clarity, we have not canceled anything. We are waiting for further guidelines and guidance, and our plan is to, as far as sports camps are concerned, we're going to follow the policy of Lee and Collier County. As far as band camps are concerned, those don't happen until the week before school or sometimes the week of teachers' plan or teachers reporting. And I talked to all 4 secondary principals today, and they have not canceled anything. We have not scheduled anything yet, but we're waiting on further clarification. There are some things that we just will need to know about. And Governor DeSantis' order did not automatically lift everything. It still requires certain safety safeguards that we need to implement. And we will do that to protect, in an overabundance of caution, protect the students who are going to use our facility.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Does any board members, would it be appropriate for any board members to comment, or do any, Molly, would be my first question would be Molly, and secondly, is there anyone who is interested after the first question is answered?
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman, Superintendent, members of the board. It's really up to your discretion. If you want to open it up for comment right now, you can certainly do that, or you don't have to. So, thank you.
I'm just trying to be respectful of, just the cumbersome nature of the virtual meetings and public comments. So I don't know if anybody has any comment, and if not, we'll move forward. All right, seeing no comment, we are going to move to the consent agenda. Is there any items on the consent agenda anyone on the board would like to have pulled for discussion and further a vote and action item? Ms. Thompson, I would like to pull item D, Carrillo interventions, and move that to action item E. Okay, so we're going to move D, consent item D to action item E. Superintendent, do I have a recommendation?
Madam Speaker, it's going to sound like an echo, but and not physically, it's going to sound like an echo. I recommend approval of consent agenda with the removal of subject the Carrillo interventions. There was a request made for justification of this contract. Justification could not be provided. Therefore, we are removing this contract from board action.
Thank you, Superintendent. So, Mrs. Thompson, if we can remove that from action item E as well. Okay, so we have the recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes unanimously. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Okay, now action items. Action item A is old business, the 2021 bus routes and school schedules. Do I have a recommendation?
I'm going to recommend that we table this till the next meeting, based on the fact that we are expecting guidance from the Commissioner of Education regarding reopening of schools. And there are many things which could impact the bus routes and the school start times. And we will inform the board when we have our meeting Thursday. And I would just, we are seeking some clarification. Also, in the bus routes that were presented, trying to find additional time for Lewiston Middle School, I can find additional time. But then when I compare the start time with the bus route, the start time already is 12 minutes earlier than the last bus that delivers students. So we verified that there are problems that we need to look at before we put this in motion. And right now, my plan would be to start Lewiston Middle School approximately 10 minutes sooner than it is currently, which would add 1,800 minutes construction time to the school year. At this point, provided nothing changes with what guidance we're getting. Now, when I say that we're having guidance, you need to realize that I just got off a superintendent's meeting yesterday. Every superintendent in the state is saying that we cannot open school with the CDC guidelines. And so we're working with the Commissioner of Education, and he understands, Tallahassee understands that we can't do that with the CDC guidelines. But we have to do everything that we can do to ensure to our parents and to our students that they will be in as safe and healthful an environment as they can possibly be. So all of those things are what are wrapping them all up, is why I'm going to ask you to table start times and bus routes one more time.
Okay.
So moved.
Do we have to vote?
Do you have to vote on tabling it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think the superintendent has the ability to pull that, right, Molly?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, our next action item is item B, old business 2020-21 instructional probationary annual PSC and CC reappointments. Do I have a recommendation?
Yes, Madam Chair, I recommend the reappointments of probationary annual PSC and CC instructional personnel.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Sally motion, yes.
Okay, fantastic.
You would hear me.
Any discussion?
Sorry about the dogs, man.
Okay, so I do have some concerns that I want to bring forward. I asked Ms. Riccardi, and I know she had to put in a tremendous amount of work to get me these figures. But, you know, I've been a stickler about on our personnel action forms having the dollar amount attached to the vote. So you know exactly what you are getting into. And between the instructional reappointments and administrative reappointments, that's a $28,347,230 decision. And when you look at our, when we're thinking about our budget discussion from last week, and it's estimated right now, and we've had those discussions about multiple scenarios on budget cuts. It's estimated right now without any cuts would be $57,850,000. So we're making a decision right now, which is going to be half of our general fund budget. And I wanted to bring up that, I don't know if I'm comfortable making that move now, because, when I'm looking back at our budget discussions, our last meeting, I think that we allegedly cut $100,000 from the budget, and that's a drop in the bucket. And then after having discussions with other people in the district, I realized some of those cuts were not something in the general fund that we could even cut. And I'm very nervous about going full steam ahead without having any consideration of any kind of reduction. And I'm not comfortable that those are going to be made, and those calls are going to be made before we have to, the discussion was before that we could issue, approve them and then just not give them a contract. And I don't know if that makes me comfortable, and I don't like kicking the can down the road. I don't think we have a tremendous amount of information about this year's budget. This is a huge decision on next year's budget, and I'm wondering, if it does come back to what, the economists are saying, where we have to have a reduction, is this action right now just stringing employees along?
The one thing for certain that you have, and I'm going to talk to the rest of the board, or to the entire board, the one thing you certainly have is school starting in August. If some board member can tell me how to open school without teachers, and the last thing we need to do is have some of our teachers start bailing and moving to other districts, then I'm willing to listen. But this is a very prudent move. It's based on what our allocations are. Attrition can take care of some of the 4 cuts that we've made based on the loss of students. And I don't know how much longer you can delay this action. Contracts end June 30th. PSC and CC personnel will automatically, I'm sure, take us to task for not renewing their contracts. We don't need to put the principals at any more disadvantage right now. Plus, we have to realize that these allocations are based on what the state constitution is saying regarding class sizes. So that is that we have followed every step that we can in this issue. One of the things that we're looking at, and Ms. Riccardi maybe can address this, is that the economists are now changing their tune just a bit. I'm not saying it's all totally rosy, but I don't think we need to delay any longer the appointment of our teachers and our administrators. We are already down in administration a director of staff development, a director of assessment, an assistant superintendent, and one of the jobs that Mr. Worth used to do. So it just slips in my mind right now. But we have made substantial cuts in county office employees, and we have put a tremendous amount of additional work on Doctors Egley, Mundy and Staley, who have taken over some of the duties that previously had been performed by additional standalone personnel. So my recommendation would still be to, and I don't know what $100,000 cut you're talking about, but we have discussed some of the things that I thought were outlined that we have done, and discussions that will also center on some major cuts that I want to talk about after we get that down, which would be regarding student transportation costs. And I don't have that figure with you because of, Mr. McCarthy has been ill.
Is there any further board comment?
Mr. Chairman, I was riding around in the community around where we live the other day, and many of the students in that area are picked up and bused. And I would like to consider thinking about putting those things on the parents, because there are a lot of safe walkways, but yet we probably bus a lot more students than we need to. So I would really like some discussion over, are we really going to use what all the other states or counties use, or are we just going to continue to bus students at random just because they happen to be there?
Dr. Burke, that is a discussion that we can have at our next workshop, but right now we got to keep the agenda rolling and take this vote on the instructional reappointments. But that is absolutely a valid concern, and something I think that is merits discussion and a workshop by the board.
Now,
So,
when I talked about in the event that these things could happen, it's not just not providing people contracts. There is impact bargaining that brings everybody back to the table. There is something called the reduction in force that only the board can declare. And we would have to include in those discussions any of the non-instructional personnel who have already been reappointed by the board.
and then that's the board being the bad guy and taking back what you put forward, and that's pretty rough. When we have really and truly made no.
I'm not making the board a bad guy. You've never been through this process before. That means we're all in it together saying, look, this is what we thought, this is what is here. In 2008 was the last time a reduction in force was declared. It is outlined in the employment contract, and we will not know, and you will not know till after November, what, if any, cuts are being made.
I don't see how the tax revenues, even for March, if you're looking at April, May, and June, is going to lead to anything but budget cuts, because that's $3 million.
Please tell me how to run a school without teachers.
I'm saying that I'm not telling you that, or trying to get you to run a school without teachers, because this, I can see your face. Or administrators, I'm saying that this is the largest part of our budget, and this comes back to we're having superficial conversations in budget workshops, and when we're looking at such a large portion of our hoped for revenues that this is taking up, I mean.
Wasn't sure what face I was making, but I wasn't intentionally making a face. The issue is that we have to plan with the best information we now have, and that's what we've done. There will be a time later when it can happen, when it's happened before in 2008, when after all said and done, the state came back and cut the budget. every district has the majority of its expenses are personnel related. Everyone. So that when cuts have to happen, it generally has to happen in that scenario. Now, when we look at tax revenues going down, we also see that there are state surpluses. We don't know how that's going to pan out. We don't know what the governor is going to do with his veto pen with the current budget. All of those are unknown. The only thing we know is what has been set forth. And that's what we can go on with. It is a recognized issue that there could be from time to time a reduction in force. That's why the language is in the contract. I don't think you are at that point right now of saying it. I don't think you actually know right now a firm figure other than what we've heard of what needs to be cut, if anything. I don't have it. Madam Chair, I don't think you have it. And to sit here and cut massively would, at this point, I think is not the right thing to do. But the fact of the matter is, the longer we hold off on appointing teachers, the worse it's going to be.
I'm not asking for massive labor cuts. You know, what I'm trying to really do here is have a public discussion, public discourse, because I think that'd be a better decision. So,
Madam Chair, may I say something?
yes, sir, Mr. Seeley.
Thank you. Why can't we go ahead and approve the instructional appointments? Because if you're going to make cuts on teachers, it's going to be allocations that are unfilled. Okay, so why can't we go ahead and approve who we've hired at this time without, I think we're scaring a lot of people with this. And I don't want anybody else, I don't want anybody to leave that we've already hired over this discussion. So why can't we go ahead and approve the instructional allocations or the instructional personnel that we have? Because if you do decide to cut positions, instructional positions, it would be unfilled positions that we need to do. So I don't see why we can't go ahead and approve instructional. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. Is there any further board member discussion?
Yes, Madam Chairman. I think also we should go ahead and just approve this recommendation. We want to make sure teachers know that we would like to hear and deal with the situation later on. We have to deal with them. I understand, your argument and what your discussion is, which is great, but this time we'll let them know that we want you here and we want to, do what we can to keep you and move forward. So, but that's it. Thank you.
And I hope it's not misconstrued that, that I don't, I'm trying to have public discussion here to have, because a lot of these questions are in answers I think the board needs to hear collectively. And it is not my intention to give people to make them feel insecure about employment, but I do, and after hearing what, Mr. Seeley had to say, and even Mr. Bloody, what he had to say on this, like, I'm capable of changing my opinions, and I do see the validity, but I just want and what Mr. Bloody said, reiterate that I'm extremely concerned about finances going forward, and I just don't want to give a false sense of security or hope after, what we're probably going to be facing after the election. And, I always think it's better to give people a heads up and not just go, I think that is, what I hope most of all to accomplish in this public discussion. That there are uncertain paths down the road, and
You're right. you are facing a huge question mark. And I think what the best thing we've done is let people know this. There is a very big question mark in everybody's mind. But we're also having money coming to us. Trickle down that Ms. Riccardi earlier in the week, and that all I am prepared to make some of the budget cuts recommendations at our next workshop. Ms. Riccardi and I have already been working on that. And just trust us, I share your concern.
It's not one side or one idea against the other. I mean, it's, we're all working, not to win an argument, but to come to a common understanding. And I, that's why I, put forth my public questions for public, discussion. So, all right, we are any further, I'm going to stop myself from making any further board member comment. Is there any from any other board members? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Hold on. Molly, I want to walk this back. If you have, because I don't want to get us, any board members tangled up with anything. If you have I know that my issue with administrative appointments may be differently because of the class size, but if you have a direct relative that was a board member with a direct relative, you need to declare that, like an instructional, because I think that class size is much larger than administrative appointments.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So if I understand your question, you're wondering whether is this about conflict of interest in voting?
Yeah, conflict of interest. If you're a board member and have, let's say, a child who is being reappointed, you have to declare that.
So
And abstain from the vote.
Yes, my recommendation under the Commission on Ethics in Chapter 112 for the statute would be that if a board member is related to somebody who is up for reappointment or appointment, that they would abstain from the vote, that they would declare why they're abstaining from the vote. And then there's also a form that they can file with the minutes of the meeting that shows that they abstained from the vote and the reason for it, which I'd be happy to send. It's on the Commission of Ethics site. I think it's Form 8F off the top of my head.
All right.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, so Reverend Brown. Molly, can we walk that vote back because Reverend Brown has that declaration to make?
Say again?
So the question we were asking was, remember the conflict of interest, the voting conflict of interest situation? And I asked her because on administrative reappointments, I have to recuse myself from the vote statewide. And that's because I'm a direct relative to somebody on there. I was asking about you because I know you have a child who is being reappointed, and I don't want you to get tangled up with anything, especially with election season coming up. And would that apply to you as well? And she said yes. So what I asked, if we could walk it back, and then you recuse yourself, and because I just want to make sure we don't get tangled up in anything.
Okay, is that something that's new, or is something that we just found out?
This is something that I taught the state, and remember, I'm not proud of it. I didn't do it maliciously or intentionally, but I did teach the state. And remember when I got dinged for voting for Tony, even though he's on that list of all those other people, and that was the point of issue with the Ethics on Commission, and they rendered a statement that you have to recuse yourself from those votes as a board meeting, even if we haven't done it in the past. We had to do that going forward. There was a lot of news articles about that.
Oh, wow, that was new to me. I didn't, never done it before, but I don't want to break any laws, but, that's something that totally.
Yeah, well, I would think that you would want to do that, especially on your election cycle, because these are things that pop up right before elections.
Oh, wow.
So Molly, can we walk that vote back? Beverly, I don't know how this works. Can you walk it back?
So, thank you, Chairwoman. My recommendation would be to, make a motion to, cancel that last vote and put it back for a revote, and then, Mr. Brown can take the action of disclosing the conflict that he has, recusing himself from that vote, and then you can vote on the matter again. And then, Mr. Brown, I can send you the form. It's actually Form 18 from the Commission on Ethics. It's just a simple form that you fill out in 5 minutes. It just shows the reason that you recused yourself from that vote. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great.
I have a motion to invalidate the last vote,
So,
to cancel it.
Second.
A second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. All right, guide me through this, Molly. I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So the section of the Florida statutes is section 112.3143 Florida statute. And it's the one that specifies that an elected member of a public body should declare before a vote, they should disclose if they have a conflict of interest. So my recommendation would be that Mr. Brown disclose the nature of the conflict of interest. I believe it's a child, just saying something along the lines of, I'm not going to participate on voting on the reappointment of, I don't know the name, my child, because, you know, of the relationship, and then just don't vote on that. And then, like I said, I can send you the form that you can fill out afterwards and just send to the board secretary to file with the minutes of the meeting. It doesn't have to go to the Commission on Ethics, it just gets filed. It's a simple form and it just gets filed with the board minute meeting, with the board meeting minutes.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is, Superintendent, can I have a recommendation? Another recommendation on instructional reappointments? You're muted.
I can't hear you.
Thank you. I recommend approval of all annual contract, ESC, and CC instructional personnel.
Okay. So moved.
Second. Ms. Houston, you're muted.
Oops, sorry, I'm just over here.
All right.
Okay, so
This is,
where does he make his declaration, Molly? In discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion?
at this time, I'd like to recuse myself from voting.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously with Reverend Brown's recusal.
You didn't recuse, Madam Chair? You didn't recuse, you've already done it already.
On administrative reappointments, I will.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, on 2020-21 administrative reappointments. Mr. Superintendent, do I have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend all administrative reappointments for the school year 2020-21.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? At this time, I would like to state that I will not participate in voting on the reappointment of Nancy Houston due to our marital relationship as it presents a conflict of interest under section 112.3145 of the Florida statute. All right. Oh, we're gonna lock it up tight. Okay, so we have, is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously with Houston's recusal from the vote. Okay, on our next action item is a new personnel allocation request.
Okay.
Superintendent, can I have your
Madam-
recommendation?
Yes, I will recommend this based on the fact that this movement realigns the IT department for savings to the district of this cost. So I would recommend this change.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Any more discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
can we get a little more information on how this is gonna save? I thought we weren't doing any new allocations at this point. Kind of confused.
Mr. Superintendent?
Okay, I'm searching for the worksheet that should be in your packet.
Yeah, unfortunately,
What this,
doing this version that I can't look my packet up at the same time.
okay. What this does is eliminates one position. The new IT director will be paid a lower rate at the beginning salary schedule for the director. The other person will be given an additional assignment of duties for a bump in salary, but the total effect and impact will be for a lesser amount of money. So we're basically taking one person here, changing their title, and giving them additional compensation for work that will be additional work, that job.
You said so we're eliminating.
So you are not creating a position. Right. You're eliminating the position. The additional allocation request is for a change in the name of the job, okay, of what we call the title of that person. So that person is already here. We're not bringing somebody new in. We've eliminated the lower position, added some of that money to him to compensate him for the additional amount of work. Then the new IT director will be at the top of the salary schedule for administrative salaries. He will start at the low end. So there's a total net savings to the board. I believe it's somewhere around an $18,000 in savings. Let me see if I can,
I think Mr. Basquin accidentally got disconnected.
okay. So y'all let me do all that talking for no reason?
I think he disconnected in the middle of your
Okay, I'm sorry.
speech, and it's rude to interrupt.
I heard you.
Okay, all right.
Trying to let him hop on for the vote, doesn't look like he's coming up. All right, so, on the new personnel allocation request, we have the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any any discussions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, on to board member business. Superintendent, you want to talk to us about item A?
Yes, I would recommend you pay the membership dues for our Florida Association of District School Superintendents.
You know I'm about budget cutting, you really need it? I'm just kidding.
Well, I could probably, but the new person coming in probably really does need it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was just trying to be funny, haha, no, not so funny.
Or you were, I got it.
Okay, does this require a vote since it's under the threshold? Okay. We have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
So, second?
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion passes unanimously. Okay, do we have any board member business? Mr. Basquin, I'll call on you first. I'm sorry, I'm killing it on the jokes tonight. Oh, I think he's back.
I'm good, Madam Chair, thank you.
Oh, he's back, yes, okay. All right, Reverend Brown.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, no, ma'am, nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Nelson. You're muted.
Okay. Did we need to discuss the financial statement or not? Item B? Oh, I'm sorry, we're on A. Well, we did A. Did we need to discuss B?
It doesn't require a vote, as an FYI.
No, I would like to say that LaBelle graduation was fantastic. I got a lot of good feedback and I'm really proud of it off. So, that's all.
And I echo that. That really, it really illustrated the resiliency of the kids and the staff, and it was cool to be, sad to be there because you wanted, everybody to be able to have what they wanted, but it was cool to be there and see them make history, for sure. Dr. Berg, do you have anything?
No, I don't think.
Okay, what I did want to talk about was if you guys had met about school reopening and what that was going to look like, but you already addressed that earlier in the meeting, and so can you give us some insight on who is meeting as part of the reopening team?
It would be Dr. Hendry, and Lundy, me, food service, and transportation. Now, once we come up with ideas, we will then start talking to principals and board members about what this looks like. Principals have already been following it, believe it or not, and some board members have already been following it. Anything I say right now would just be pure conjecture because we have not looked at some of the things that we do. One of the things we come up with is temperatures. When and where are we going to do that? And if it's at the bus stop, are we prepared to leave people at the road? Or if they have a temperature, will we isolate them on the bus, bring them to school, and then get them reported out? Those are the types of things that we need to work on. Also, are we going to have cohorts in the elementary schools? The cohort basically means that we have students in one class who stay in that class. And all the resources come to those students rather than them moving around. Some districts I've talked to have actually gone so far as to say, and feeding is going to take place in the classroom. That's going to, that's going to get their attention. And we haven't done that. We also need to realize how are we going to move these students around, because if you shut a child up for 7 hours in a classroom, they're going to have to out in summer. And we're gonna have organized there. Some schools, and I really want to, we have made no final decisions or and have discussion. But at the secondary level, some districts are moving to alternate day. So that half the students are there on Monday, the other half comes Tuesday, and then never the twain shall meet. And there will be virtual schooling going on those days they're not there. I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do, but those are the types of things that we have to decide what's gonna happen. If we do that, like on the secondary level, we can just about do social distancing on a bus for middle and high school. Particularly if we look at some of the other things that we're talking about transportation with. Elementary schools, because of the class size reduction, and come pretty close, but not totally socially distanced. The other thing, they have to, everything's gonna have to be sanitized regularly, regardless of what we do. So that any common area are gonna be wiped off, and how are we gonna? I've also enlisted Dr. Pepe from the health department to work with us, because if we cannot meet, and I'm told that we cannot meet all the CDC guidelines, the Hendry Health Department needs to sign off on those so that we can have that other measure of comfort with parents and students who want to come back. 70, the news press, Wink TV did a recent poll. 71% of respondents in their poll said they prefer class learning. So we have an overwhelming support of people wanting to come in. That's not 100%, but it's 71%. 62% say they want to return to the fall of 2020. The one thing I can certainly say to you is that we are operating and planning toward opening on our regular calendar. If we wait until the end of September, till the end of August and work till Labor Day, we have a whole bunch of problems with paying benefits and salaries, okay? Now, that could be something that we look at. But then, do I want to tell people who have been without a paycheck all summer, they've got to wait another month? So that could be a little bit problematic. But we will have far more input from parents. I'm planning on surveying teachers, students, and parents regarding our reopening plans.
I'm sorry, you broke up at that, like those last two sentences.
Okay, I'm planning on surveying teachers, parents, and students regarding the
Okay, fantastic.
reopening plans. And it's gonna have to be kind of a brief survey, are you comfortable, what makes you comfortable coming back? Those types of things. How would you like it if we did this? So those are the things we're gonna come up with Thursday. And my plan would be to have a plan developed by the end of June to put forward. If I could, that reorganization that you did in IT saved $17,000. So that's totally off subject, but I did get that current figure for you.
There are a lot of good examples that other school districts have shared as far as their surveying, so you probably don't have to recreate the wheel there. But I'm certainly I'm interested in knowing what our community feedback is in Hendry County, and appreciate y'all moving forward on a survey to gather that information. As a parent, I share that anxiety of, what are we doing next year? I need a plan. I'm already end of summer tired, and summer just started.
We're end of summer tired at the end of April. I can feel it. I can feel it. I do not wish on this on anyone.
It's rough.
Yeah,
About our lunch services, have those, our feeding, our breakfast, our services, what are our numbers looking like? That, are we experiencing a fall off there, or?
I'll have to get that. I don't have that right on my desk, but I'll.
Okay, well, that was just something I thought about, like during the meeting, but other than that, that's my board member business. Superintendent, do you have anything?
Other than to thank the board members who were there Saturday, I think it happened better than I could have expected. And while it wasn't what people wanted, parents were front and center. They did not have to view graduation from the stands. They were there. It was very well behaved. People were able to express their individuality. They were able, it just happened better. And so I'm looking forward to that Saturday night. And it took 2 hours. I was expecting 4 hours, and it took 2.
It was very, very well organized and well planned. Kudos to the staff and the students and the families. And I think that the students, when they get older, will realize that whoever was in that car with them during that moment who are really important in life. So that was pretty cool.
I can share one, and then I'll quit. I promise I'll quit. I was on the stage and I noticed the traffic was jamming a little bit, so I went down and helped move people. And had a student come, and I was moving the students toward me and then the pickup vehicle to come up toward us so that we could at least get the next people ready to graduate. And this one student came and I said, well, is this the car you're getting in? She said, nope. And her parents were separated. She said, I rode in with her and I'm riding out with him. So I thought, you go, girl, you took care of that situation because she figured it out and told her parents what would happen. We actually had a student who was in a vehicle and it broke down. So if you were wondering why a student graduated on a Gator, it's because their car broke down on the track. And so the only thing they had available to get in was the Gator from the school. So that's why that was there. But it was just a good time. And that's it. I promise to be quiet.
All right. Okay, well, if there's not any further board discussion, then so everybody have a great, hey, no, we're gonna walk that one back. Do we want to have a board workshop, another budget workshop? Because we need to make that plan now. I walked back a lot tonight. It's not my best meeting. Sorry, folks.
No, you're doing great. And I apologize for making, if I was sticking my tongue, I burned my tongue today and it hurts. So if I made some sort of face, Ms. Houston, it was not directed at you, and I apologize. I really did not think I was doing that. But I noticed.
Maybe I'm a little sensitive. I've been trapped with a tween and a teenager, and they do make faces when I talk.
And then I was thinking, maybe I was messing with my tongue and it looked like I was sticking it out, and I am, and I just noticed that I was doing it. But I'm sorry.
It's fine, no worries. Do we have a date that we want to meet again about budget? Does the board want to meet about budget?
I think we do. I'm not a board member, but.
Do we have some of the numbers by then, do you think?
I'm sorry.
Will we have some more solid numbers by then?
You will have some pretty solid recommendations.
I say let's do it. Do we want to do it virtually or in the boardroom?
I mean, I don't really have a preference. What about you, Rev? You're muted. All
I'll be
right.
here virtually and playing for you, the people.
right, did Mr. Bassman get back on? I'm having connectivity issues.
I'm here.
You're here? All right, perfect. What are your thoughts on board meeting? Workshop, when would do you want to in person, online? And when's a good time?
Well, I know the next 2 weeks, the week of the 14th is definitely out for me. When's our next actual scheduled board meeting?
The 16th?
All right, I'm gonna miss that one, so, whatever we got available after that, I mean, it's fine with me. Or next week, I mean, I'm fine with that too.
Next week would be.
Can we do next week? I don't want to roll into, we have to have this wrapped up by the 30th. And so I don't want to get in that 11th hour. Maybe if we can do it next week, then we can, it'll give us a few weeks cushion between having the end of the year.
My only request is that we do not do it on a Wednesday, because I would like to stay for the whole thing.
Okay, noted. Can we do it on the 9th?
Does that give Mrs. Ricciardi enough time?
I don't think I will have sufficient changes in information by then.
Do you have any, yeah, that makes sense. How long do you need?
Truthfully, I was looking at the 17th because my calendar had originally scheduled something for the 16th, and the 17th we now know is no good because somebody said they couldn't make it. Mr. Bassett said he couldn't make it, so that's why I was looking at the 18th. I don't know how that would be.
I'm out of pocket that whole entire week, the 14th through the 20th.
I'm out on the 18th.
I'm always here.
And as am I, but I'm just concerned that I won't have any information. Presenting you information would be the same as what it is right now. Minus, now, I will say that last week, we reduced, based on the conversation last week, we did end up making $160,000 in savings. And that's excluding the footsteps to brilliance, what Mrs. Newsom was referring to earlier. But like I said, aside from that, I think that there's the savings from bus driving and some of the savings from not fully funding all positions. I'm just not sure that I'm going to be able to tie all that within 5 days or less.
Can we do it on the 22nd?
We know you and I can.
Monday, yeah.
I'm always hanging out. All right. I saw a head nod from Amanda. I heard a yes from Dr. Berg. What do I have from you, Reverend? I hear a yes from.
Yeah, I can be on virtually on 22nd.
Okay. What time do you want to have this meeting? And we know that Reverend Brown wants to do virtual. Are there any sticklers for in-person? Well, I guess we can figure that out as it goes. We just need a time and a potential place. All right.
What time?
Whatever time that'd be okay with.
I really have a super flexible schedule over the summer, so. Mr. Bascom probably has more professional constraint than I do.
Yeah,
So there-
this is my extreme busy time of the season, so the later in the afternoon, the better for me.
All right, well, throw a number out there for me. Throw a time.
5:30, 6 o'clock.
All right, is 5:30 okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we got a workshop
On the 22nd,
on the 22nd. Yes, ma'am, at 5:30.
and
For the ones in person, where do we want it to be?
The actual meeting on the 16th, is it going to be virtual or in LaBelle? Since we're not doing tonight's in Lewiston, we're just sticking with virtual.
I am.
It's fine with me.
It can go either way. For me, I'm a little nervous about Hendry County's exploding numbers and, maybe the perception of all of us in a room together is,
Maybe let's just agree to keep them virtual until further notice. Okay,
I agree.
sounds good.
All right, so virtual budget. Are we having a virtual budget? Or a hybrid?
Somebody say something.
Is,
My favorite.
meeting?
Sally, someone? I feel like I'm
We'll have a regular meeting at 5:30 on the 22nd, and a virtual meeting on the 16th, is that what you're saying?
Is that what we're saying?
I thought we had a
If you just
virtual.
want to have like the workshop as a hybrid model, you can come if you want to. You don't have to come if you can be on virtual if you want to.
Yes.
Okay. Where, for the people who want to attend in person, LaBelle or Clewiston?
LaBelle, if they do in person, I think would be safer.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go ahead and
So
say.
if you want to attend this meeting, the budget workshop in person, be in LaBelle on the 22nd at 5:30. And if not, Mr. Adams will send us a Google Meet.
Okay,
All right, we got that down. Now, I have this back to you. So now, we're gonna adjourn. Is there anything else from anybody? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Computer died.